Monmouth County just reached a record population of more than 651,000 residents. But at the same time, the median home price climbed to $745,000 this year, up more than 4% from just a year ago. The truth is, there are some things about Monmouth County that genuinely surprise people after they move here. The commute, the property taxes, the way school districts actually work, and even the fact that two towns that look nearly identical on paper can offer completely different lifestyles once you live there. In this video, I want to give you the full picture. We'll talk about why Monmouth County continues to grow, the towns I get asked about most, what life is actually like here, and a few reality checks that nobody puts in the listing description. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Melissa DeSantis, a broker associate and the managing broker with Real Broker here in Freehold Township. On this channel, I talk about anything and everything related to living here in Monmouth County, New Jersey. I've been helping buyers, sellers, and relocating families navigate this market for almost 20 years. I want to share the things I think every buyer should know before making the move. Let's start with why so many people continue moving here. During the pandemic, Monmouth County experienced the largest population increase in its history. More than 23,000 people moved here in a single year. While that surge has leveled off, the growth never really stopped. Today, we're sitting at a record population of more than 651,000 residents. So who are these people? In many cases, they're families who have spent years building equity in New York City, Brooklyn, Staten Island, or North Jersey areas. They're looking around their apartment or townhome and realizing they want more space. They want a backyard. They want a driveway. They want a place where their kids can ride bikes, play outside, have their own bedroom. One thing I've noticed over the last few years is that the typical relocation buyer isn't necessarily looking for the biggest house possible. They're looking for balance. They want access to New York City when they need it, but they also want a better quality of life when they're home. And I can't tell you how many buyers have called me 6 months after moving here and said the same thing. I forgot how nice it is to have space. Space for the kids, space for the dogs, space to entertain, space to breathe. That's something a lot of people don't fully appreciate until they have it. Remote work has also changed everything. 5 or 10 years ago, many buyers couldn't imagine living an hour outside of Manhattan. Today, if they're commuting once or twice a week instead of 5 days a week, suddenly the math makes sense. Add in a strong New Jersey job market, and it's easy to understand why demand remains high. Of course, that demand has impacted prices. The median home price in Monmouth County is now $745,000. Inventory remains tight, homes continue selling quickly, and in many towns, buyers are still competing for the best properties. The growth is real, the demand is real, but now let's talk about what this actually looks like at the local level. One of the biggest misconceptions I see is when buyers search Freehold online and assume they're looking at one town. They're not. There's Freehold Borough and there's Freehold Township. Same name, similar mailing address, completely different lifestyles. Freehold Township gives buyers a lot of what they're looking for. Larger lots, diverse housing options, a central location, and generally more house for the money than some neighboring towns. I recently worked with a family relocating from Staten Island who looked in Marlboro, Colts Neck, Manalapan, and Holmdel. After seeing all of them, they ended up choosing Freehold Township because they felt they were getting significantly more home without sacrificing convenience. What I love about Freehold Township is that everything feels accessible. Shopping, restaurants, major highways, parks, recreation, medical facilities, and commuter routes are all nearby. You're really in the center of everything. Now, here's the trade-off. If you're coming from a place where you walk to your local coffee shop, grocery store, or train station, Freehold Township may feel very different. This is a driving town. You're getting in your car for most errands. For many families, that's not a problem. In fact, some prefer it. But it's important to understand that before you buy. Lifestyle matters just as much as the house itself. And for buyers looking for value, convenience, and room to grow, Freehold Township deserves a serious look. Now let's talk about Manalapan, and this is where I live. My husband and I moved here in 2010, just after my twins Nick and Gabby were born. At the time, we were living in another town, and although there were things about that town that I loved, we felt Manalapan offered the schools and community environment we wanted for our family. Looking back 16 years later, it was one of the best decisions we ever made. When people ask me why I love Manalapan, it isn't because of one ranking or statistic. It's because of the overall experience. It's the kind of place where kids grow up together. It's the kind of place where you'll see the same families at sporting events, school functions, and community activities for years. There's just a real sense of community here that can be difficult to explain until you experience it yourself. What I hear most from buyers who move here is that it feels like a true neighborhood town. There are established communities, mature trees, larger properties, excellent recreational programs, and strong schools. And while no town is perfect, Manalapan consistently checks the boxes that many relocating families are looking for. That's one reason homes here move so quickly. Buyers recognize the value, they recognize the lifestyle, they are willing to compete for it. Now let's talk about Marlboro. If Manalapan is often the sweet spot for relocating families, Marlboro is usually where buyers look when they have a little more flexibility in their budget and want to prioritize highly ranked schools. Marlboro has built a reputation over the years for strong academics, beautiful neighborhoods, and excellent long-term value. The homes are beautiful, the neighborhoods are well maintained, and demand remains incredibly strong. But here's an important point that many buyers miss when researching online. Marlboro High School and Manalapan High School are both part of the Freehold Regional High School District. So while buyers often compare the towns solely based on high school rankings, the bigger differences frequently exist at the elementary and middle school levels. That's why I always tell buyers not to stop their research at the high school. Look at the entire educational journey. That's where you'll often find the distinctions that matter most to your family. Let me share something that I think is just as important as home prices, school rankings, or commute times. One of my favorite questions to ask clients after they've been here for 6 months or a year is, what do you love most about living in Monmouth County now that you've actually experienced it? And what's interesting is that very few people talk about the house itself. They actually talk about lifestyle. They talk about having dinner outside on a summer evening. They talk about being able to drive to the beach on a whim. They'll talk about youth sports, community events, farmers markets, hiking trails, golf courses, and having space to entertain family and friends. They talk about the feeling that they've slowed down a little bit and just have more balance in their lives. That's something that doesn't always show up in a property listing, but it's often the reason people stay here long term. One of the things I personally love about Monmouth County is how much variety there is here. In a relatively short drive, you can go from horse farms in Colts Neck to downtown Red Bank, to the beaches of Long Branch and Asbury Park, to the suburban neighborhoods of Manalapan and Marlboro. And every town has its own personality. And that's important because many buyers assume Monmouth County is one giant suburban area. It isn't. Living in Colts Neck feels very different than living in Red Bank. Living in Holmdel feels very different than living in Freehold Township. Even towns that are right next to each other can offer very different lifestyles. That's exactly why I created my free Monmouth County relocation guide. It breaks down the towns I work in, including home prices, school information, commute considerations, and lifestyle comparisons, so you get a clearer picture of which areas may fit your needs best. You'll find the link below in the description. Let's talk about some things that surprise people after they move here. First, the commute. This is probably the biggest reality check for many relocation buyers. One question I wish more people asked before they fell in love with the house is, where's the train station? Because in Freehold Township, Manalapan, and Marlboro, the answer is simple. There isn't one. If you're commuting to New York City by train, you're driving to a station first, usually the Matawan Aberdeen train station or Red Bank. That's not necessarily a problem. Thousands of people do it every day. But it's important to understand what that looks like in real life. The drive to the station, finding parking, then the train ride itself, and then getting from Penn Station to your office. If you're commuting once or twice a week, it may be completely manageable. If you're commuting 5 days a week, it becomes a much bigger factor in deciding where you should live. I've had buyers completely change their search area after realizing how much the commute would impact their daily life. Another surprise for many buyers is Route 9 traffic. If you have spent any time researching central Monmouth County, you've probably heard people talk about Route 9. During peak hours, it can absolutely get congested. Is it a deal breaker? No. People adjust, they learn alternative routes, they learn the best times to travel, but it's something you should understand before moving here, because lifestyle isn't just about the house, it's about your daily routine. The next reality check is schools. Everybody tells me they're moving here for the schools, and I completely understand why. The schools throughout much of Monmouth County are excellent, but school rankings can also be one of the most misunderstood parts of the relocation process. Many buyers look up a town online, see a school ranking, and assume they've done their homework. In reality, that's just the beginning. Different neighborhoods within the same town can feed into different schools. Different towns can share the same regional high school district, and sometimes the elementary and middle school experience can vary significantly even when the high schools are connected. That's why I always encourage buyers to research the specific address they're considering, not just the town. You're not just choosing a municipality, you're choosing a school pathway that could impact your family for years. Finally, let's talk about the reality check that catches almost everyone off guard. New Jersey consistently ranks among the highest property tax states in the country, and Monmouth County is no exception. I can't tell you how many times buyers carefully calculate their mortgage payment, their down payment, their moving expenses, only to be surprised when they see the annual property tax bill. The reality is that property taxes need to be part of your budget conversation from day one, not after you've fallen in love with a home. Because a home that feels affordable based on the mortgage payment alone may feel very different once the taxes are included. And if you're considering a shore town, you may also need to factor in flood insurance depending on the property's location. These aren't reasons not to move here. They're simply costs that should be understood up front so there are no surprises later. Now, after hearing all of this, people often ask me the same question. Melissa, which town is best? And my answer is always the same. There isn't one best town. There's only the best town for you. The answer depends on your budget, your commute, your family, your lifestyle, and what you want your day-to-day life to look like. Every family's priorities are different, which is why there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer. That's exactly why I created my free Monmouth County relocation guide. You'll find the link below in the description. And if you'd rather talk through your situation one-on-one, I'd be happy to help. Again, I'm Melissa DeSantis, and I've been helping buyers and relocating families navigate Monmouth County since 2006. And I still genuinely enjoy helping people figure out where they belong, whether they're moving from New York City, northern New Jersey, or somewhere else entirely. I'd be happy to answer your questions and help you understand your options. Feel free to call, text, or schedule a consultation using the links below.